All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, welcome to our PPC webinar today. It's a HeroConf 2014 special webinar. We are talking about 8 ways PPC automation can change your life. So I'm the host, Sam Owen. I'm a senior account manager here at Hannafin Marketing. I am also a blogger for PPC Hero. And if you want to reach me at any time or just add me, you can reach me at Sam Owen PPC on Twitter. I'm really lucky to be joined by 2 guys who really know pretty much everything there is to know about automation in PPC. So the first is Kai Mu. He is a senior product marketing manager at Marin. Marin, of course, a huge PPC platform for those of you not familiar, do all kinds of things like bid management and reporting and take all that kind of stuff off your hands. And then I'm also joined by a Hannafin webinar regular in Larry Kim, and he's the founder and CTO of WordStream, and you can reach him at Larry Kim on Twitter.
Thanks, Sam.
Hi, guys. So a little bit about the topic today. We're really going to try and do this in a question and answer format. So just to make it a little more interesting, ask some questions about how automation works in PPC, see how Larry and Kai think it can benefit the work we do, where there might be some problems, and then try and wrap it up at the end with kind of the 8 ways that it really can change our lives in PPC. So hopefully we'll get some interesting discussion. We're also really looking forward to having you guys out there ask some questions and get some feedback, because these 2 guys pretty much know everything there is to know about automation, at least in terms of platforms that are out there and stuff. So it would be a really good opportunity to ask some questions, and we'll get around to that at the end. Hopefully get there and go with that. And if you do want to join in, so you can either ask in the little question box on the side in the GoToMeeting, or you can use hashtag ThinkPPC on Twitter. So we'll monitor that as the webinar goes on and pull up any questions you guys have. And then hopefully, like I said, get to those discussions quickly. So we actually have a live poll question here just to get us started and to get everyone kind of warmed up and into the webinar. We're going to ask, how long have you guys all been in PPC? And hopefully this just gives us an idea of whether you're from back in the days where everything was a bit more manual, or whether you've been using tools because you're pretty recently into it. And I'll start by answering this question. So I'm approaching about 5 years in PPC now. I've been working at Hannafin for about 2 years now as well, specifically since I moved over to the US. And I still tend to do a lot of my stuff fairly manually, so we have tools that we use, but I'm kind of one of the old school. I prefer to do a lot of the work myself, but I'm going to pass it over. So I guess I'll kick it to Kai first and ask you this question. How long have you been working in PPC and at Marin, Kai?
So I actually started roughly 6 years ago. I was previously at a web analytics company called Core Metrics. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with them. Acquired by IBM towards the end of my tenure there, and then I went ahead and joined Marin Software. So I've been around SEM and SEO for a while now, and yeah, I have pretty passion for it.
Very cool. How about you, Larry?
Holy cow. I did a first AdWords campaign back in 2001, and it wasn't even AdWords. It was like emailing spreadsheets to Google on what keywords you wanted to buy. So that's, I mean, it's, you don't even have an option on that for your poll here. So, like, it's a while ago.
Yeah. Larry's our old man of PPC.
Get this. Google was like, under 200 people at that time. So it was quite a riot.
Pretty cool. Looks like we have a pretty even spread here. So about a quarter of people in each group there, most in the 1 to 3 years. But that's good. So hopefully we can talk to kind of all levels of experience. We'll get started. So I'm going to kick over some questions to you guys and let you kind of discuss and tell me what you think. So the first one that I really wanted to dig in and find out what you think about is one of the main things we can do with automation, and the kind of theme of this first slide is automated reporting. So pulling all the data, getting it done without having to do it manually. And I guess the question I have is this is all this work that we're talking about automating, is it actually just a time suck? Is it a waste of time? Or is there actual value to doing it manually? And I guess I'll kick it over to Larry to start.
So I'm going to take a kind of a, kind of a negative view here. Sam, I think you're onto something here in the question, like, are we wasting time? It's not that, not always, but I think definitely more often than we think, it's possible that we're potentially wasting our time with just pulling reports. And so it's kind of a complicated issue because there's all sorts of confusing signals. I'll give you an example. So I've got about 1,500 customers on the software that we sell, like WordStream, and we're constantly like polling the users, the customers, like, what are you looking to see, and reporting, like as a new feature idea, has been at the top two, for the last 5 years. Okay, and ironically, we've been just building out more and more features and functions in reporting, and yet it still remains to be kind of one of the ghost towns in terms of lower usage overall in the product when you look at the actual usage stats. So it's confusing because I think that search marketers and agencies, I think we're in love with the idea of automating reporting, but ultimately, it's an area where you have many people having different ideas of what reporting is and what metrics to track, and what their workflow is, and how do they use it. And so whenever you have kind of this type of kind of task area where there's not a lot of consensus in terms of like what is reporting, it's a lot harder to automate, and you end up just looking, working in the dimensions report, kind of like in AdWords, just, which is kind of like the, that's kind of like the stem cell of reports, where all the, you can generate any other report off of that thing. And so, that's one huge problem that I see, with kind of this very loose workflow. The other area here is it's not actionable often. So like when you're looking at a report, it's like a piece of paper, a printout, or an Excel file, or an HTML file. A lot of times this isn't actionable, and so the value of just looking at stuff and not necessarily, it's much more valuable to actually fix the problems, and so that's a lot kind of how we've built out our tools and automation around, like, instead of showing like here's your top 10 keywords or whatever, it's like here's the 10 keywords that you should have added. We're trying to take reporting, but trying to make it so that you can do something about it at the same time. And so those are kind of my 2 big points there.
Yeah, I think Larry, you touched on a very important point there, which is reports have to be actionable. Back when I was in more of an agency capacity, we had a lot of customers looking for recurring reports, whether it be weekly or monthly, that in automating them, you save a lot of time, but to what extent are they actionable? Are they really reading those reports? Are they simply clicking in, opening them up, looking at them for 15 seconds, and then deleting them? There are a lot of benefits from automating reports. We typically see roughly a 40 to 60% time savings from a reporting perspective when reports are automated. But at the same time, we want to make sure that those reports being generated on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis are actionable, and that our users and advertisers are able to do something with them. And one of the approaches that we like to take is thinking of more alerting type reports that by nature are actionable. And just to throw out an example there, one of the more common reports that our customers like to use are sort of conversion reports, that being keywords that have accrued a lot of clicks, maybe over 100 clicks, but no conversions. Throw me that report every single day so I can take a look at those keywords that have a very, very low conversion rate, or maybe are not, what's the underlying issue. Another one might be active keywords and ads that aren't accruing clicks or impressions. Are there issues here that we need to address? These are very fundamental, very basic recurring reports that by itself is very, very actionable. And those are the types of reports that we try to lead our customers to start creating, or those alerting type reports.
So I'll jump in again, guys, and ask really quickly, from the point of view maybe people listening to this webinar, how exactly do I go about automating my reporting? Is it I have to buy a platform that's out there? Are there good free tools? What really would, and I know both you guys obviously work for different platforms that help automate reporting. Is there anything out there you think people can do kind of manually in AdWords, or do you think this is something that you have to pretty much accept? Hey, it's going to cost me a little bit of money to use an automated reporting tool, but it's going to save me 40 to 60% of my work time. I guess I'll kick that over back to you, Kai, and then we'll come back to Larry in a second.
Yeah, so, based on my experience and sort of what I've observed in the industry, reporting is, like Larry mentioned, is becoming more and more important, and automating it is becoming more and more in demand. And the reason for that is because as you start to automate reports, you get to become more strategic and less tactical. Now, from a Marin software perspective, we do have a lot of customers and advertisers that use our platform almost solely for reporting. Probably 80% of the activity that they perform within the platform is around reporting. And one of the things that we notice in the industry is that for a lot of more sophisticated and complex advertisers who are working with very large accounts, they do require a platform, or at least a reporting solution, to satisfy their requirements, or at least meet those challenges that they are facing, folding their data in different ways, being a lot more sophisticated in the way that they look at their data, right? I think for basic reporting, you can definitely go through AdWords and automate a lot of that. But as you start to think about, okay, how do I inform cross-channel decisions and optimization decisions, across publishers and across channels, you want to start looking at stronger reporting suites, like your Marins, your Quizios, and your Kenshoes of the world. And so, I think that from my experience, it's been, if you want that stronger reporting suite, you do have to look at more of a premium platform to accomplish that. Larry, what are your thoughts?
So the question is like, how to go about doing reporting, Sam, is that right?
Yeah, so I was just wondering for people out there, if they actually wanted to start automating their reporting. If there's someone listening who doesn't do any automated reporting,
Right.
What are the considerations? Like, where do they go to actually get this done? Like, what's the cheapest way, or is it something where you have to accept that no, we're going to have to pay the premium?
So it entirely depends on what kind of reporting you're doing here. There's so many different use cases within this umbrella word of reporting. There's sort of this, check the box reporting. That's my terminology. It's like the use case where the agency sends over this weekly or monthly report that are, rarely read or acted on. I'm sure you've all seen these cases. I think that's a great case for kind of, reporting automation, and I would definitely invest some money, to automate that, because why spend a ton of time and effort, like like Kai was saying about wanting to be more strategic with your time. Another great use case for kind of reporting is auditing. So like for example, we have this free AdWords grader tool, and I think it's like an incredibly useful PPC auditing tool. It's been used over like 100,000 times for the last 2 years, and Sam even reviewed it on the blog. But basically. It's just like a quick and easy way, to do a quick, no frills PPC audit, get a good overview of where you stand, and I would put that in the category of like, great for a candidate for automating, and then this one's free, so you don't even have to pay money for this. But the challenge here is there's like so many other use cases where the traditional reporting, it kind of falls short. Like whenever you need to do some out-of-the-box thinking or out-of-the-box analysis, where you don't really know what you're looking for, I think that's where you kind of need to move away from some of the packaged reporting tools and instead be looking to work with, team up with folks like yourself at PPC Hero, Sam, or at Hennepin Marketing, to do that kind of in-depth manual, custom, deeper reporting to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much where we sit. So the main value of reporting to us at Hannapin is to get our clients over the consistent reports that they want to see every week and month. So the weekly reports, the monthly reports, and to put those into Excel and build something nice out every single time is just really time consuming for something that we can pay a small fee for and have it done in an instant. And then we add a little description. So give something a little more actionable to our clients, tells them, what we've done, what we've been working on, maybe, highlight some things in the report, like click-through rates have really improved as a result of around ad testing we've been doing, and it's shown here. But I think you're right, Larry. Some of that stuff that's just, you kind of have to do it, and there's not too much added value in that work. We think it's worth kind of paying a little bit to have that done in a way that looks good. But some of the more manual stuff, we definitely do that. So if we work maybe an audit we're hired in for a potential client, we'll go through, and it's mostly manual. Sure, we have some reports that kind of help us pick out, maybe a macro or something in Excel that does some stuff for us, but a lot of it is still that process of going through manually and kind of looking at different reports and kind of interpreting them. So I think you guys are both pretty much right there. It's really a tricky one. I don't think there's yet like a one-size-fits-all solution that gives you everything you need for automated reporting. We'll jump on and talk about bidding. So I think this is probably somewhere that automation is actually pretty successful at the moment, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on a couple of questions that we tend to get these on the PPC Hero blog a lot, these questions. So do we need bid automation tools when we have, so I guess the question is, the Google Conversion Optimizer, why should I use bid optimizing tools over Google's algorithm? And then also just there are bid rules in AdWords I can use anyway for free. Am I going to do better using automated tools? So I guess I'll kick this to you, Kai, because obviously Marin do a lot of stuff with bid automation. And just kind of give me your thoughts on potentially how you think your platform outperforms Google or just general bid rules.
Sure. Well, I'll start with sort of the benefit of Google Conversion Optimizer, and I think there are two really big benefits of Conversion Optimizer. The first one being is that it's free, and that's probably a big piece for a lot of people. The second one is that Google understands the auction landscape, and they are constantly making real-time bidding decisions for advertisers through Conversion Optimizer. And in that sense, they're able to hit goals very well. And that's what we've seen in the past with a lot of advertisers that have come into sort of a bidding head-to-head bake-off, if you will, between our bidding solution and Conversion Optimizer. Is that Conversion Optimizer does do a really good job of hitting those CPA goals that advertisers are looking to hit. Now, where Conversion Optimizer starts to fall short is along three fronts. The first one being transparency, the second one flexibility, and then the third one the lack of sort of a systematic approach to bidding. And when we talk about transparency, this is probably one of the more significant pieces that advertisers like to point out when they are coming off of Conversion Optimizer, and that is they don't know what their bids are, they don't know what Google's doing, they don't have any insight into the auction landscape. In fact, when you do turn off Google Conversion Optimizer, your bid defaults back to the bid that it was set before Conversion Optimizer was turned on. So there's no way for any advertiser to know where their bids sit for any particular keyword, and that's a huge issue. The second one is flexibility, and this ranges across advertisers depending on their level of complexity and sophistication. So if you're an advertiser with not very many conversion events or fairly basic in the way that you're tracking revenue, Conversion Optimizer is a perfectly fine solution. It's very effective. However, as you start to get into more sophistication, whether it be latent conversions or downstream revenue that's being captured in a CRM system or a back-end data warehouse, piping all of that information back in and enabling a bidding algorithm to calculate optimal bids based on that is critical, and that's something that Conversion Optimizer cannot do and cannot take into consideration. And this is probably most profound when you start to talk about lifetime customer value, and that's something that we're seeing a lot of our advertisers starting to look at, which is how do I inform my bidding solution to factor in lifetime customer value or multiple conversion events within the customer path to conversion. These levels of bidding sophistication are not addressed by Conversion Optimizer. So as you start to get into the upper echelon of bidding sophistication, that's sort of where your platform bidding solutions like Marin start to really differentiate from these Google tools like Conversion Optimizer. And then the last piece is the systematic approach, which is the ability to sort of forecast or preview bids. So gaining that extra level of visibility into, okay, if I do raise my margin goals or lower my ROAS target, what can I expect to happen from a volume standpoint? Should I expect to see more clicks, less clicks, more revenue? These are the things that platforms like Marin are able to give advertisers a glimpse at before pushing bids live to the publisher. So the ability to really preview and forecast gives that extra level of visibility into bidding that isn't available with Conversion Optimizer. So that's sort of where I think where you'll see the major differences between platforms like Marin Software and our bidding algorithm versus Conversion Optimizer, as well as bid rules for AdWords. Larry, any thoughts?
Sure. I think at this point, so I find myself taking a slightly different view here. I feel like bidding over the last 5 years, it's been pretty commoditized, so like, not for all of them, but for the majority, like, the vast majority of advertisers, we're not seeing here a heck of a lot of difference in terms of like the CPA performance on like a Kenchu or an Acquisio or Marin or Adobe or WordStream versus a Google. Like, we're finding the biggest differentiator has to do with like picking the right strategy, like, oh, oops, I meant to use this strategy or that strategy, but once you apply them, they're like, there's no one platform that's like doing double the other one. You know what I mean? And the way that we know this is because we have like a couple hundred managed services clients where we just do the work for them, like without using WordStream software, just and often they'll be using like some other platform, and so we can just try turning it on and off with Google Conversion Optimizer to see what the heck is the difference. So like, definitely Google has been beefing up their the tech there in terms of like flexible bid strategies and particularly AdWords scripts. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's value add here for very sophisticated advertisers, but what I'm saying here is that at this point, 2014, given how much Google has innovated on the bid side, it doesn't seem like a hugely differentiated thing to hang your hat on at this point. But that's just my view here. Sam, I'd be interested in hearing like, are you guys seeing huge differences in performance?
So I would say the one place where I think automated bidding, or specifically buying a bid automation platform, really pays off is for really big e-commerce accounts. where the margins you have on different products vary a lot, and it's almost impossible to do it manually, especially with e-commerce typically having huge seasonality shifts as well. That seems to be the biggest win for it at this point. We tend to use a mix of different tools. So we'll use Acquisio, we use BidRules and AdWords, we use Google Conversion Optimizer. I'm kind of with you a little bit, Larry, in the sense that I don't think there's necessarily a huge difference when you refer to strategy being important. For people listening who aren't quite sure exactly what Larry meant there, it's more whether you're targeting an average position, whether you're targeting conversions, whether you're really cutting back on CPA. I think that's definitely the case. So we try and find if there's particular ways to bid that work well for our clients. I would say I prefer bid rules to, or at least let me put it this way: I prefer carefully watched bid rules to Conversion Optimizer. One, because I know exactly what I'm doing there, and the other one is really because I find Conversion Optimizer still a little slow to react to like the realities of business. So let's say you have a down week for whatever reason. Maybe it's just snowed a lot in the Midwest and you're not selling a load of sun loungers or whatever. And everything kind of goes down and your conversion rate disappears for a week. I find that Conversion Optimizer is often way too slow to react the next week. Or even, if you have the realities of dealing with clients where they need you to push one week and CPA kind of goes out the window. So I think it's great for most people, especially if you don't have much time to manage it. Like I said, I still lean on the manual side with the help of tools rather than completely leaving it, two tools at that point.
So Sam, I was just chatting with someone at Acquisio the other day, and he described like bid rules to me as kind of the weapons of mass destruction. Like great power, but you have to kind of know what you're doing, and there's also like a great risk of making errors, and so yeah, if you're like a PPC hero, Hennepin, like but don't try this at home, kids. If you're like in the 25% of like the under 1 year kind of camp, because they can just blow up in your face if not operated with a skillful operator. But to your point about the e-commerce people using it, I wasn't saying that bid management isn't relevant for everyone. I said it was for the vast majority of advertisers out there that we see. Like that we're not seeing a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, and definitely with the bid rules, when I put them in place, I tend to really watch the accounts, especially average CPCs and conversion rates and cost per conversions for the first few days, and every time it updates. Luckily, Google's added a big undo button for.
Yeah, that's great. Hey Sam, one thing that the WordStream bid tools do is they do this like one layer deeper of testing. So before applying changes like from a bid rule, it then checks to see like what impact that'll have, like by simulating the impact on like oops, I raised the bid on this keyword of this match type, but that'll clobber another keyword in another ad group with a different match type. Like the bid rules, sometimes you have this problem of like unintended consequences, and then that's just one thing that I guess for some of the more fully automated systems that they'll do all this back testing and a level deeper of testing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do something similar. We call it bookending. So just kind of almost manually, well, I guess it's a lot with Excel, but working out based on rough estimates what we think is going to change, and how much our CPA is going to rise, how many more conversions we should get, how much more we're going to spend. I find that it's a little tricky to do it well, so I'm sure your tool does it better than I do. We just like to have it as a rough guide to tell us, hey, you're going to get more conversions, but it's going to cost more. and the reason I find it doesn't work too well is because the landscape of when, you know, bidding a cent more and bidding $1 more actually changes your position is pretty varied behind the scenes, I think. So it tends never to play out exactly as I thought it would. How accurate do you think your tool can get it, Larry?
Well, what it does is it blows away invalid changes. So like it just, you know, it simulates a lot of different changes, and then checks to see if, like, you know, what would be the side effects, and then it nukes changes that we think have a high probability of screwing something else unintendedly. And so yeah, it's you know, like, it's like PhD level kind of crazy math, and like I just see how I think it would be hard to replicate, you know, just by eyeballing it or whatever. But you know, but that's the kind of thing that, you know, the Google Conversion Optimizer also does. You see what I mean? So like all these bid simulators do similar things. So.
I know we've kind of been on this slide for a little while, but I'd really like to get your thoughts on AdWords scripts and where you think that's going to leave automation. So do you see, or do either of you guys see like an in-house JavaScript person being part of you know, an important part of the PPC team, or do you think that AdWords script's kind of a passing fad and it's not really useful enough to do anything better than the kind of other platforms out there?
So I think, let's Larry here. I think the AdWords scripts is like the biggest new thing in PPC automation, like, ever. I think in some ways it's kind of like, if the trend was, you know, the commoditization of bidding platforms, like, this really is kind of like another nail in the coffin in terms of, you know, making I think Kai had a few different kind of bullets, like transparency, flexibility, or something like this. Like, it makes the bidding, like, incredibly more flexible. And so, you know, just for people who don't know what AdWords scripts are, it allows you to write, you know, JavaScript-like code and run that in your AdWords account. You know, and you can schedule it to run daily or weekly or monthly or whatever, and that code can do pretty much whatever you want it to do. So if you want it to, you know, go fetch a page from weather.com to see what the weather is, and bid higher or lower based on if it's raining or not, if you're selling umbrellas, you know, this is totally, like, you know, something that this AdWords scripts can do. You know, this previously was kind of a feature function that was absolutely not possible in AdWords because it was kind of a closed system, and you absolutely had to use like a Kenju or Marin or an Acquisio to do this kind of stuff. But now they've kind of made it so that it's possible to do this, and you know, like, we meet with these guys, you know, periodically, and it's getting a lot better, you know, quite quickly. So so definitely, I think this is an interesting thing to take a look at, and it kind of just accelerates the trend that I'm seeing in bid management. I guess where it falls short is that it's Google only. So, like, if you're, you know, trying to do this on, you know, I don't know, Baidu or something like that, you're out of luck.
Very cool. I'll jump on and we'll talk a little bit about keyword research. So this is kind of one of those things that we spend a lot of our time doing at PPC. So looking for new keywords. And I was wondering from either of you guys how much we can actually automate at the moment. So what tools are out there to do this for me rather than slaving over the Google keyword tool and kind of manually copy them into Excel to upload. I'll kick it over to you, Kai.
Sure. So actually, this is one of the areas where we probably here at Marin see the least amount of automation, and I think that this bodes well for any SCM manager out there, because a lot of it is up to the intuition of the manager to identify keyword opportunities, to be able to then craft relevant ad creative for those keywords. Now, where there is room for a little bit of automation is generating, your search query reports on a daily or weekly basis, identifying, areas of expansion, whether it be a new keyword or a new negative keyword. On top of that, taking a look at on-site search reports through your analytics package, generating those reports on a daily or weekly basis and seeing if there are any keyword nuggets out there. But for the most part, this is where I think there is a balance that needs to be struck between automation and sort of manual manager intuition. And so, I think that you'll probably see some technology start to emerge more and more. I know that, here at Marin, we do have some level of automation when it comes to, okay, you see a keyword with, over 100 clicks, over 20 conversions, go ahead and add that to my list of keywords. Now, even that level of automation in itself is only beneficial to a certain extent, because whether or not you're dealing with some sort of seasonality, some sort of trend, and there's no guarantee that keyword is going to perform for you in the long run. And on top of that, you still have to generate that relevant ad creative that goes with that keyword. You have to find the appropriate landing page for that keyword. There's so many manual elements in there that really what it comes down to is that automation has a limited purpose here, or a limited role, I should say here. So I don't know, is that something that you're seeing as well, Larry?
So again, I think I take a slightly different view here. I agree with you that you can never really automate this 100%, but I feel like keyword research is a kind of a workflow where you should and can be leaning a great deal on automation. Hopefully like 70, 80, or 90% of your work here should be automating. When I think of kind of the workflow that I do when I do like the keyword research, it's like, the keyword expansion. So coming up with a big list, the grouping of that keywords, organizing them into ad groups, negative keyword research, competitive keyword research, keyword trend research, as well as, what keywords to delete after they've been tried, like automatically deleting crap keywords or automatically suggesting new keywords to add. Like, Sam, we've done webinars before in the past where we asked the question, like, what's your biggest time sink in PPC? And keyword research is always like a top 2, top 3 kind of thing, and this is one of the ones where I'm pretty confident that you should be able to get a lot of leverage with fairly cheap, $49 tools like SpyFu or SEMrush, or even free tools like WordStream actually has a lot of free keyword tools. Like you don't have to pay for them. There's like a negative keyword tool, a keyword expansion, keyword grouping, that kind of stuff. And so, it's like I feel like this is I guess I'm much more bullish on the automation potential of this particular workflow.
So Larry, I guess what I'd like to do is kind of, I guess, back up my statement in that. So when you talk about keyword research, are you speaking more of the generation of reports to identify or at least bubble up to the surface keyword opportunities, or are you actually talking about the workflow of identifying keywords, adding them to the appropriate ad group, then generating the ad creative, identifying the correct landing page for that keyword, and setting the appropriate bid? Are all of those pieces also automated from your perspective?
Yeah, I would take the broader view of keyword research, kind of like all of those tasks, and even I would even go even further back, like ideation of the keywords, like using keyword expansion tools and the grouping and organizing of keywords into niches or groupings, the negative keyword research, as well as all the tasks that you just mentioned. I feel like a lot of those can be automated, and I would point to the recent kind of changes in the keyword planner, which a lot of people don't like the new keyword planner. I actually like it a lot because it kind of follows my workflow of, grouping keywords together. That used to be like an annoying manual task, and then it sets the bids for me. It does a lot of these. It eliminates duplicate keywords, so like so it won't suggest keywords where you already have in your account. Like a lot of this stuff can and is being automated. That's what I'm seeing, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for people listening, Larry or Kai, how someone's listening, they've got some keyword research to do, maybe they need to build out a new campaign. Like right now, are the tools there that could pretty much do most of that for them, or do you think those kind of smart algorithms are still a couple of years away, or do you think it's just it's something that they need a couple of different tools to kind of piece together at the moment? There's still a lot of manual work involved.
Well, so I'll sort of start on that one. So I do think that there are a lot of manual pieces still involved. From just back when I was engaging in a lot of keyword research and keyword expansion, you will run into instances where you do find sort of that diamond in the rough type keyword that does require the sort of nurturing of or manual attention from a search manager. But there are instances, and I think that this is more prevalent with negative keyword expansion research, where automation does play a huge part. There are a lot of industries, such as in the financial services industry, a lot of the travel verticals, travel and hospitality verticals, where you're going to see a lot of negative keyword expansion automated. A lot of keywords generating plenty of clicks, but no conversions. These keywords are typically going to be the ones that you're going to add as negative keywords, whether across your entire account or particular ad groups and campaigns. And that's actually where we see most of the automation within the Marin platform are identifying those types of irrelevant or non-converting keywords. However, when you start to talk about how do we create new ad groups or add new keywords and sort of maximize quality score and increase relevancy to the point where you are driving users to the correct landing page and really improving that user experience all the way from interest to conversion, that I still feel, and this is I think where Larry and I are going to differ, is that type of marketing and advertising intuition really comes into play. You really need to know, how am I going to generate an ad creative that's most relevant to this new keyword that I've found. I think that if you do look to automate those types of situations, you almost sell yourself a little bit short of any potential to capitalize on new keyword opportunities, because you've let a machine dictate how your keyword or your ad creative might perform. And you really only get one shot at that, especially if you're automating the ability to turn off a keyword if it doesn't perform well for you, right? So that whole manual approach, I think, allows a marketer to set themselves up for the most success on any new keyword that they do identify. So I think that, again, it kind of falls back onto, striking a balance between automation and marketing intuition.
Just to clarify, I don't mean to suggest that ad copywriting or landing page creation was a component of keyword research, and I emphatically agree that those are difficult to automate.
Well, I guess that kind of brings us nicely around to kind of our final question slide here, at least, which is I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys, and I think we've already touched on a lot of it, is just what parts of PPC are not easy to automate or are not going to be so automated in the future. So the one that I kind of came up with was ad testing. I think that's still fairly creative. I know there are some algorithms out there that are getting pretty smart and able to write copy. And I'm sure, they'd be able to write the copy and then have 10 different ads and test them and pull the results and then take the one that was doing best and tweak it and try new calls to action. I'm sure that stuff's coming. in a few years. I don't really think it's there at the moment. But I wanted to ask you guys, like, what parts of ad testing do you think we can automate, and then kind of what parts do you think are always going to need some human interaction? So I guess I'll kick to Larry.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Basically, there's a ton of stuff that you can automate in terms of the mechanics of ad testing. So, in fact, Google already does a lot of this, in terms of picking a winner and loser if you're racing two ads. Like if you set the ad to rotate by default, it eventually stops rotating and picks a winner for you after a while. And so definitely, that kind of analysis of saying, like, is this statistically better or worse, and identifying like the winner from the loser, that could be automated. Another thing that we automate is the kind of detection of where you should be focusing your ad testing time. So, like, scanning through potentially hundreds or thousands of ads and trying to figure out not just which is the worst ad within like an ad group, but within your entire account. Like if you had 5 minutes to spend on ad testing, here's the worst ad that you should be focusing on. So there's definitely an element of like prioritization. In terms of the ad copy, definitely Google is doing some work here around automating ad copy. So like if you've ever heard of Google AdWords Express, like it's a way for small businesses to advertise, and you don't even have to write an ad. So Google will write the ads for you, it's the same way with product listing ads and product feeds, where you don't write ad copy. Google just writes the ad copy for you. Like it's an iPad, $5.99, or and I expect this to be the case, in other verticals like travel and tourism or automotive, or verticals basically where there's structured data. It's easier to automate the ad copy. But on the flip side, where is it hard to automate? I think it has to do with just whenever it comes to like the marketing element of search engine marketing. Like we forget, like, you're supposed to be a marketer too, and so where it comes to talking about your guarantee or your offer or your unique selling proposition, or kind of like the pain that you're trying to solve, like all those types of things are going to be better expressed by manually trying out 50 or 100 ads. Kai, anything to add or disagree or agree?
I think, Larry, you've touched on all of the key elements there of creative testing. Obviously calculating statistical significance. If you were to try to tackle that about 4 years ago, you may have been doing that manually, but there are a lot of now creative testing tools that will do that automatically for you. And what that opens the door to is being a lot more strategic. So as we were talking about earlier about saving time and becoming more strategic and less tactical, I think creative testing is an area where marketers are going to be able to save a lot of time and become more strategic. And then, Larry, to your point about identifying areas within an account that you can best leverage creative testing and optimization, that begins to expand as you have more time. So, before, if you were only able to touch on your top 50 ad groups and test creative within those ad groups, with additional time, 40% time savings, you can expand that, the number of ad groups that you're involved with for creative testing and optimization. And then again, to your point about doing marketing, actually doing marketing, there's definitely a compromise to be made between automation and marketing intuition, generating that human element of ad creative. I think with dynamic keyword insertion as well as live ad parameters, that does bring a level of automation where you are able to tap into inventory levels, to whether or not a price is dropped for a particular product, whether or not you're swapping out brands for the same type of ad copy to sort of expedite ad creative creation. And then there's also elements out there like Boost CTR is one of our partners, and they make a living off of doing marketing. They have folks who sit there and generate ad creative and have that sort of manual element to it. And I think that that's a piece, and to the second question there, I think that's the piece that will never be replaced through automation. So, that human quality, that piece that's going to drive click-through rate to increase quality score, that's an element that I don't believe will ever be automated. But there are certain pieces that can be automated more and more so that you can become more strategic throughout your entire account.
Cool.
Very cool. Larry, I'm just gonna jump ahead here because we're kind of running a little low on time, and this is just kind of a wrap-up slide. So I think hopefully, if any of you guys have any points you wanna quickly draw on as we try and wrap up here, that maybe they'll fit into these bullet points. But really, we wanted to focus it back around to these kind of 8 ways that we originally thought up when we were putting the webinar together that automation is kind of changing PPC. So I think the first that we can all kind of agree on is saving time. So we talked about reporting, we talked about bidding, which is obviously a huge time suck, and then things like pulling negative keywords that we need to pause, or that we need to add, or keywords that we need to pause kind of out for us. And from this, the second point, I'm not sure how much you guys would agree with this, is just fewer mistakes. So a lot of the things like changing bids to a crazy level. Now, I don't know if I've actually seen automation kind of cause more mistakes than less, just with people not paying attention to like runaway bid changes, etc. So that's definitely kind of our second point. And then Larry, you were kind of talking about with scripts, and I know Kai, you've talked about Marin doing this as well. Is actually some smart changes that perhaps we really don't have time to make on an individual level. So one is using a weather API to say, hey, it's sunny, we should advertise X product at a higher rate, or it's more people are going to come and visit us at the zoo, so maybe we should pay a little more to have our ads show, etc. And then the fourth one is kind of get more work done. So for me, at least in PPC, I know that if I'm having my reports done for me, if my bids are kind of handled and I just need to check on them once a day, it gives me a lot more time to do ad writing, strategic planning, auditing accounts, and actually end up getting a ton more done. And that kind of is the fifth point too, so focusing on strategy and not what we call lever pulling, also maybe just the tactics of PPC. So rather than worrying about, if bid A should be 6 cents higher, actually worry about the grand approach of the account, so what specifically we're doing. I don't know if any of you guys want to jump in. I'm trying to wrap up the webinar. If you have any thoughts so far.
So I've got one, Sam. Very important point here, which is for all the things that we've been discussing here, it seems to be like the automation provides you, some degree of benefits, and then the manual stuff can maybe do a little bit above and beyond, like in these certain cases. But I'd just like to add to that it really depends on your ad budget. Okay, so like if you're spending $500 or $1,000 a month on paid search, the automated solutions are may be good enough. Like that say like, could you do better? Potentially, but like keep in mind your time is not free, and neither is a lot of the the expensive stuff that you could potentially use to make this thing better. And so it's just saying all of these best practices I think are very conditional on your investment on paid search, and the smaller your budget, kind of monthly budget, like if you're 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 a month, you might come to the conclusion that the automation is good enough, given that you're only investing that much in paid search. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's true, and it kind of applies to the huge accounts on the flip side, where you actually wouldn't be able to do a good enough job at monitoring everything, where you need the automation to help you too. So it seems like those mid-level accounts are pretty safe for human PPC workers, which kind of brings me to my seventh point there, which was make your job redundant. And I know that at least technology taking over all of work is kind of a long-term concern. I think I saw a report by Oxford University that had something like 47% of all jobs at risk of being lost to technology in the next 20 years or so. and I'm sure PPC is right up there. So let's not sugarcoat that at all. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can be done through these tools. I don't think we're quite there yet, which is lucky for me. But it's something that you want to think about, maybe in terms of like where you're specializing in PPC, or you know, do you become kind of a master analyst who can take a lot of this automated stuff? Do you focus more on the creative side? So hey, I think I'm always going to be able to write better ads than a machine, and try and, you know, work on it from that point of view. So maybe it's a little too long term to think like that right now. It's something that always concerns me in the back of my mind, but I'm sure that's not too much of a worry for WordStream and Marin, who want to be the guys who replace the expensive PPC managers anyway. So
no, not. I wouldn't say necessarily replace, but the way that I like to draw it up as is, you know, I think for a lot of search managers out there, a lot of the day-to-day stuff that they do is treading water, you know, just trying to generate enough revenue to get by the quarter or the year. And what automation brings to the table is the ability to not only tread water, but swim somewhere, take the account somewhere, grow revenue incrementally, explore a new region, you know, segment your account so you can better target. These levels of very strategic workflows, I think, are opened up when you start to automate most of the day-to-day, you know, day in a life of workflows that I think bog down and take away from that strategic thinking that we were talking about.
And I mean, I think I agree. I mean, I can't remember who it was said it. It was someone on a blog I was reading recently, but just they think it's going to go swing back more to the kind of Mad Men days almost, where there's a lot more strategy and creativity to advertising, and be it online, now where it's kind of shifted to, than necessarily where we're kind of mini human robot analytics geeks and kind of working through all the data that way. So I think it's definitely interesting, and I can definitely kind of see things shifting that way too. Cool. So the final point there was just free up your vacation time. I was just going to make a little point about use alerts and automated alerts to help you out with your accounts. So one thing I do is just I have set up within AdWords. I send myself a report if my CPA spikes up a lot over the day before. It really depends on the account. Let's just say I set it for 25%. If the CPA is 25% higher day over day, if conversions are 50% lower, I get an email. And that means when I'm taking a week off work, I don't have to panic and look at my accounts every day. I know if something's really wrong, I'm going to, well, one, I'll probably get an email about it from AdWords before anything too crazy happens. And the other one is that I'll also be kind of in the loop as well with just like some minor tweaks as well that I'm specifically monitoring at that time. So we did have a final poll, and as we kind of come to the end of the webinar, we just wanted to ask if, firstly, if anyone was interested in a free solutions blueprint, which is something we offer at Hannapin. This is for anyone with accounts over $20,000. It's kind of a mini audit we do. We make some recommendations for your account. There's no obligation to hire us or anything. Just we'll take a quick look, make some kind of free suggestions. And the other one is what we'd really like to push to you guys today is our early bird HeroConf discounts. This is the HeroConf webinar, and we're really excited to get one of the best lists of PPC experts that I've ever seen together in one place at one time, including Larry and Kai, to talk about PPC. I think that we have something like 4 sessions going on at every time. Check out the HeroConf website. There's an absolute ton of content in terms of PPC specific conferences, which is something you don't really see too much. And there's $100 off you can save with our early bird discount. So if you're interested in those, let us know. Otherwise, we're just really thankful that you've been on the webinar today, and hope you will be next time as well. We actually don't have time for a live Q&A. I know a couple of you guys had some pretty specific questions, so we'll try and follow up with you and make sure those questions get answered. If you don't hear from us, obviously you can get in touch with us too, but we should follow up on all of that. So Larry and Kai, thanks very much for joining me on the webinar today. It was great to kind of get your thoughts on where automation is going and where we're at right now. And I hope to see you guys both at HeroConf and hopefully a few of our listeners today as well.
Thanks for organizing, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Sam.